This is the Thursday, July 14th, 2022 meeting of the Harrison Zoning Board. Please all stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice. Justice. All right, we have some findings. We're going to go through the findings first. We have findings for Anthony and Gina Cerrone, 4300 Purchase Street, calendar item Z22017. Can I get a motion to approve the findings as written?
I'll make a motion to approve the findings.
You got a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Calendar item Z22018, Mary Ann Sullivan, 10 Park Drive North. Can I get a motion to approve the findings as written?
Make a motion to approve calendar Z2218.
Any opposed? Can I get a vote? All in favor? Second.
I'll second.
Billy second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have findings for calendar item Z22019, Brian and Rose Gillen, 166 Park Avenue. We have findings to approve. Can I get a motion to approve the findings as written?
I'll make a motion to approve
Billy,
Z22-019.
can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Calendar item Z22020, Brooke Zarkowski, 3 Fairway Drive. We have findings to approve. Can I get a motion to accept the findings as written?
I'll
Make a motion to approve Z22020.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Calendar item Z22021, John and Grace Harris have findings to approve. Can I get a motion to approve the findings as written?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Z22022, Mark Lust, 3 Westwood Court. I have a motion to approve the findings as written.
I'll make a motion to approve Z22022.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have a request to extend the approval for Joseph and Alice Torrey, a famous Yankee, at 20 Lawrence Lane. Can I get a motion to approve the request for an extension?
Make a motion to approve the extension for Z22023.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
It's going to be a 2-year extension. I'm going to do a 2-year extension on it.
Yeah. Do we have to put that in the findings?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Calendar item Z22025, Luciano Pieretti. Anybody here on that?
The sign wasn't posted on that.
Huh?
You said that's one at the sign, that's 300 West Street.
Yeah,
There was no sign posted on that property.
so they have to come back.
Great, so we want to just adjourn it, or?
Yeah.
we have to hear it?
Yeah, no, they didn't have a, I told you about that. I'm surprised it's on the,
Well, we have to move it on, so.
okay.
Yeah. So we won't hear it, okay.
We won't hear Z22025, Luciano Pieretti, because there was no sign up. We don't need to do anything else. Do we need to adjourn it? No.
No.
To next month, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Gartner?
Mr. Gardner's here, he would like to.
Huh? But that's the same issue.
So he did, so he's going to come up and explain to you what, you want to take the other one first?
No, I'll take Mr. Gardner.
It's 300 West Street. The only way you're gonna see a sign is if it's on a gate post, because there's a group of homes in there.
Why doesn't somebody, can you call them and tell them that they should have it posted so it's in full view?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, because it's set back all the way under the bridge there.
Illegally.
Mr. Gardner? Tell us who you are.
So Nelson Gartner and my wife Molly were here as the homeowners at 3999 Purchase Street. We were here, I guess, 3 months ago
Okay.
for, I guess, the same issue, but then subsequently discovered that there were 2 other variances that we needed that we weren't made aware of at the time. And so we wanted to, they're related to the initial issue because the initial issue that we got approved was the exterior height of the building. And apparently there was a related interior height that needed to be approved also that we were not made aware of to ask for the exception at the time. And then additionally, we were not aware that we needed to ask for an exception for the sprinkler system, which is for a non-inhabited, non-insulated, non-heated building that is a significant distance from anybody around. So if we'd known that, we would have presented it all at the same time originally.
That's okay. It's not a problem. The problem was that when I visited the property, there was no sign, and that sign is very important. So I understand that we negotiated August, from what I understand. They're going to come back in August?
Right, but Mr. Burke had sent in a photograph prior to when the sign was posted, which was 2 days before the deadline.
It's supposed to be consistent, though.
Well.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and I can't speak for I mean, within minutes of the time that you were there and I was made aware the sign was down, we put it back up, and I can't speak. I spoke to the caretaker who lives in the house, and I asked him what the situation was, and candidly, he didn't have a good answer, although I did subsequently see that and I think Mr. Lowenthal came and saw the sign, subsequently, there was a string there that must have either come loose or fallen, and so.
Let me post the board. How do you feel about this? When you were there, Michael, was it posted?
I was there today, and it was posted.
Today. What about, that's not good enough. When were you
I'm
there?
fine. I came in, to me, if it was there and it was there today, it's good enough, and it's on a big enough property not to offend any neighbors.
Yeah. Ernie,
I agree.
do you agree with what?
But Steve,
That's Mr. Lowenthal. The record.
Yeah.
Mr. Long, no more candy for you. I'm okay with it.
Okay, we'll hear you tonight. Okay. Can you sit back, though, and I want to take somebody else first. Calendar item Z 22026, huh? Allowed to do it, yeah. It was posted, just they complained that it came down. Tell us who you are, please.
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Wayne E. Sanderson, 700 White Plains Road, Scarsdale, New York. I'm counsel to Frank Bardani, who resides at 8 Ponds Lane in Purchase, New York. With me this evening is Mr. Bardani, who's sitting there. For those of you who are not familiar, 8 Ponds Lane is situated in a cluster subdivision. And what that means is that when the subdivision was approved, the relief from the traditional setbacks was granted. So the setbacks in this particular subdivision on the side yard in particular is 12.5 feet. We're here this evening in response to a determination made by the building inspector, which we maintain is violative of the law, particularly Chapter 235, subsection 19 of the Town of Harrison zoning code. That determination states in sum and substance that notwithstanding the language of the town zoning code, air-conditioned condensers were permitted to encroach in the side yard setback, and it was not until April 20th, 2010, that the then building inspector began to enforce the law as written and stated in the Harrison Town Code. Just by way of background, my client lives at 8 Ponds Road. He's resided there for 35 years. His home is a single-family residence with a master bedroom located on the first floor. His abutting neighbor is at 10 Ponds Lane. She has 2 air-conditioned condensers that are in the side yard that are less than 12.5 feet. And we've provided a survey, which is attached to our material, that indicates that the air-conditioned condensers are 11 feet from the property line. As a result of these air-conditioned condensers being located there during the during the spring or early summer months and through the early fall, these condensers go on and off all night long. And it interrupts my client's sleep and his ability to get a good night's rest, which adversely could in the long term, affect his health.
What months did you say?
Excuse me?
What months did you say?
During the spring, during the spring, summer, early fall. As I said before, we've provided you with a survey that shows that it's 11 feet from the property line. In bringing this to the attention of the building inspector and the building department, the inspector made a determination that the side yard setback enforcement was precluded because the condensers were installed in 1984. Well, he doesn't know exactly when they were installed, but he indicates that they were installed in 1984 at the time that the original construction plans or the building permit was issued.
So why would he have a problem with it now, if he didn't have a problem with it since '84?
Well, it's not, first and foremost, it's not the same building inspector, and secondly, let me
Not the
just,
building inspector, why would your owner have a problem with it now?
because time has passed, people age, people be.
So now that he's older and there's too much noise,
Well, and also the equipment deteriorates over a period of time. If you take a look at Chapter 235, at the beginning, it talks about when this provision of law was actually adopted, and it indicates that on November 18th, 1974. It also states that amendments noted therein would be indicated throughout. If you turn to Section 235, subsection 19, it clearly states that unless otherwise permitted in this section, every part of a required yard, and that means the rear yard, side yard, and the front yard, shall be open to the sky, unobstructed, except for, and they list a series of exceptions, retaining walls, fences, an accessory building in a rear yard, but nowhere in here does it say condensers for air conditioners. So the statute on its face is unambiguous, it's clear, and for the life of me, I can't see how someone can interpret the fact that air-conditioned condensers were permissible back in 1984 and 1985. This law has not changed. It was codified in 1974.
but if it doesn't mention condensers, why wouldn't they have the same argument on the opposite side?
Because I
Put in-
believe,
Because, so they could put in a condenser without permission.
I'm sorry, I'm not following your question.
You're saying to me that since the code says, does not reflect anything about condensers, so why wouldn't the other party be allowed to put in a condenser if there's no restriction?
Well, the condenser in this particular instance, as shown on the approved plan, was located within the required side yard setback. Now, it's no longer within the side yard setback. It's encroaching, excuse me, it is encroaching within the side yard setback, and it's only 11 feet versus 12 and a half feet, which is required.
I'm confused. This condenser, was the original condenser replaced? Or is this the same one from 1984?
Right. It appears, condensers, my experience is that condensers don't last 37, 40 years.
Right.
Generally,
I want the name of that one.
generally, they do have to be replaced.
And when was
It
this one
appears,
replaced?
according to my client, that these condensers were replaced within the last year or two. And so they are now encroaching.
And
We
they were
provide.
not placed in the same location, they were placed in?
We believe that the location has changed. Clearly, it's changed, because if you have an as-built survey, or if you have plans showing that it's 12 and a half feet, and now you have a licensed New York State surveyor indicating that it's only 11 feet, then clearly there has been a change.
Is there what we usually do, I mean, in these cases, is ask whether or not there's some middle ground on this thing called sound mitigation. And on generators, air conditioning, condensers, and stuff like that, to put up some sort of a mitigating sound barrier, baffling the sound, which usually gets the job done. If it's gonna be, nothing's gonna get it done, obviously, it's not gonna work. And then it goes to a different level of argument.
So it's only 1.5 feet outside of the, or
I don't know that a foot and a half is meaningful.
Yeah, it's a foot and a half.
if you moved it 1.5 feet, wouldn't it still disturb his sleep though, his main
Right.
complaint?
Yeah, it's not going to make a difference.
Well, exactly. The point being is that the applicant or the property owner should be required to come in and do one of two things. Either get a variance, in which my client will then present evidence of the fact that this is impacting his health, or relocate the air-conditioned condensers to the rear yard. Those are the options.
He doesn't have the option to relocate it 1.5 feet?
I don't believe there's, further down on the property, there's a provision where they could, and according to my client, he believes that the air conditioners were originally placed within this little alcove, but now it's sort of overgrown with brush, but if the applicant removed the brush, they could be relocated in that area. It would not be directly adjacent. I mean, the impact of the air conditioning condensers is directly across from his bedroom window. And his bedroom window is on the first floor of his home.
His bedroom window's been on the first floor for how many years?
Well, the house was constructed again in 1984, 85.
So where was the original condenser?
That's a very good question. We maintain that it was not where it is
Your
now.
client's been living there for 35 years.
That's correct.
Does he
And
not
he
know?
maintains that the condensers have been relocated.
But why would someone relocate the condenser if that area is not being used for anything? Why would anyone just inadvertently move a condenser unit?
Because maybe if you went to the site, you would see that there's a tremendous amount of brush, and maybe they wanted to maintain that brush. I think in that area, there's a kitchen and a kitchen
You
window.
just mentioned all members have been there.
Well, I would hope that every member was there.
That's our practice.
This is.
Good.
That's your presentation, you have more?
No,
And the building inspector came out and ruled on this?
the building inspector, upon information and belief, he did not go out. We were dealing with one of the code enforcement officers who was communicating back and forth with the building inspector. Part of the issue here is to say that the enforcement of the zoning code prior to 2010, what it does is, to say that there's a difference, it creates two classes of enforcement. You have properties that were existing, that may be existing and who are subjected to regulations, and you have another group of property after 2010 that is subject to another set of regulations. And what you've done is taken the code and created two separate groups for enforcement purposes. And this on its face, in my opinion, creates an equal protection issue. Because in this instance, my client is not getting equal protection under the law. The law is very clear. It indicates what is excluded. If the town board wanted to exclude air conditioning condensers, they would have held a public hearing and adopted it, and it would have been part and parcel of the code. But instead, they have not done so, and this has been in existence for quite some time.
Hey, by the way, may I ask, your client resides at 8 Ponds Lane, correct?
That is correct.
And how far from the property line is your client's condenser?
His condensers, I believe, are your condensers in the rear yard or your air conditioning condensers? Your air conditioning condensers, are they in the rear yard?
Side yard.
I see them in the side yard, I see them.
Side yard,
They're on the side?
yes.
Okay.
Is your client sure that, and they're 12.5 feet away?
It's on the opposite side, but he's on a corner lot. So they,
No.
No,
Side
there's,
of her house.
No, it's on the
it's
side.
gotta be like 11 feet away.
Yeah, your client may
Maybe
have the
less,
same problem.
10 and a half, maybe.
are your air conditioning condensers on the same side?
Yes.
Okay. Only down further. Okay.
But his are even closer.
Positive that his are 12.5 feet away from the property line.
No,
Because he
no.
may have the same problem.
No, he doesn't have the
Well,
same problem.
no, he's more than,
Okay.
yeah, he's not encroaching into the side yard at all.
The setback in the bottom right-hand corner is 13.9 feet from the property line. The condenser unit's gonna be probably at smallest a 2 foot by 2 foot, but it's probably a 30-inch by 30-inch or 36 by 36. It looks like he's probably 10 feet, maybe 11 feet away from the line. If you look in the bottom right there, there's
If you look
two
at
AC
your
condenser
survey,
units.
Right, the survey says it's, no, because the property actually gets wider.
Okay.
As
A li-
it
a little-
goes
a little
wider.
But you still, so your AC unit's gonna be a foot off the house. Your unit's probably 30-inch by 30-inch or 36 by 36. If you do the deduction, you're gonna be roughly around 11 feet.
I would respectfully disagree with that because I think what you have to do is really get a survey. But I think that as you look, the property line extends out to the right
It
further.
skews a little
Yeah,
bit.
it
but
skews a little, so-
It's close, it's
What's
close.
what's not feasible is the fact that, in terms of carrying sound, switching on and off, I understand what that is. The fan goes on, fan goes off. It's irritating, I guess. But does a foot and a half make a
18
difference?
inches won't matter.
I mean, can a foot and a half reasonably make a difference?
Well, ultimately, the goal would be, well, hopefully, that if enforcement were permitted,
Yeah.
that she may decide to, instead of just moving it a foot and a half, be courteous and be neighborly and relocate the air conditioning compressors to the rear yard.
Has been asked yet?
Yeah, have you reached out to the neighbor
I
to
don't see
try
it,
and
that's the problem.
We have attempted to reach out to the neighbor, but that has proven unsuccessful at this time.
Maybe your client should get a test done from a specialist for like decibel levels at the property line, and if they move it back 18 inches, really, what would that accomplish?
Well, that's hypothetical.
No.
Yeah,
that's well,
it's hypothetical.
Okay, so I mean, okay, I'm gonna state now that I don't know, I don't think that the 18 inches would make a difference significantly for sound levels to overturn the department's decisions on this. That's my opinion.
It's not a question of 18 inches. It's a question of the code and what's required under the
Been
code.
there for as long as it has. I don't think that it would have ever been moved to a different location. I personally don't believe that that would be the case. Unless there's proof, this is where it exists.
There is evidence that we've always maintained, we've informed the building inspector that the air conditioning condensers were relocated.
But do you have documentation of
And when
that?
was that?
When we spoke with the building inspector,
Get the building inspector, when was that?
I can't tell you exactly when it was relocated, but she did do some work there. She did some work on her foundation. She put tile along the base of her foundation.
So
She had
really,
drainage
it's
issues.
hearsay, it's hearsay, isn't it?
No. I
If you
think
tell
it's,
me that if it's been done, when was it done?
And where do you claim it was relocated from on the property? In the same spot, a foot and a half closer, or? Because it would seem an unnecessary cost to me to relocate.
my packet,
Considerable.
I think the sound could be mitigated.
if you look at the survey on Exhibit B, there's an area that's cut in. There's an electrical box there, there's an oil tank there, there's a number of things that are situated there, and we believe that the air conditioning condensers were located there prior to their
What is
move.
Exhibit B? Because my Exhibit B is blank.
I'm sorry.
Why can't you move?
Turn the page beyond that. That's just the exhibit page, there's the survey.
And the person isn't here to defend it?
I beg your pardon?
The other side isn't here tonight?
We serve notice, just like everyone else.
Okay.
I have a copy of a letter that says, this is from the building inspector. They determined that the condensers installed at 10 Ponds Lane were installed lawfully as per the approved plans on file in our office dated July 10th, 1984. Condensers in 1984 were not subject to setback requirements. Beginning April 2010, this office required all new condenser installations to conform to required setbacks. So legally, this is legally non-conforming, isn't it?
No, it's not, because it wasn't lawful at the time. If you read the code has been in effect from 1974,
235
235-19.
does not mention condensers.
That's correct.
So
If you
how can you
read,
assume that it does?
you're what's called, you have, like many municipalities throughout the state of New York, you have what is called exclusionary zoning. If it's not expressly permitted, it's excluded.
I gotta tell you,
In
I gotta tell
235.
you, I'm not in favor of this.
In 235-19, you have a list of those things, those exceptions, which the legislative body sought and approved and authorized to be included within, or permitted to be encroached into the side yard setback.
But this is a cluster development though.
That is correct. That doesn't change the requirements of the code, doesn't change the requirements of 235-19.
Anybody else have any questions? You finished, or you want to continue?
I don't understand why we can't get them to, get the other party to
Put in screening?
mitigate it, yeah, put it in sound baffling or what have you.
That's
Just-
fine.
I have a comment, I mean, if we do something like that, now how
That's
many,
not unreasonable.
how many properties is it gonna affect in this?
That's not unreasonable.
That's fine, but the other party, as you can see, is not here, despite having
We
been,
have findings. Does anybody else have any questions?
Can we, how do we make, how can we make that other party do something
Right.
that the building department is saying that it's permitted?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but even if we overturn the decision, right? So even if we overturn the decision, how can we enforce that the neighbor who is not even involved at this at the
We
moment?
can ask. We can ask.
or if I may make a suggestion, a more drastic approach would be to issue a violation and have her go
I
about
won't do that.
the appropriate steps. Well, it's a more drastic, I said. If she doesn't want to cooperate, then we can issue a violation and have her, compel her to come in and resolve the issue.
Well, we can't do that, that'll have to
No,
be
it would be
buildings.
the code enforcement
Right.
provision.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the appropriate route. I mean, they have to have their day in court.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions? I'm going to request an adjournment. And Rose,
Yes.
you'll find out from the neighbor? They'd be willing to do that?
Do you also need to maybe reach out to the building inspector?
Huh?
Do you also need to reach out maybe to the building inspector as
Right.
well? Okay.
Is that satisfactory for now?
That's satisfactory for now. Thank you very much,
So this
Mr.
will
Chairman.
be- This will not be on the August meeting, this will be on September?
All right, put it on the August,
Okay.
if that's okay with everybody else.
That's fine.
The town is Covell closed.
Just keep them piling them on.
Huh?
No, it's fine, it's fine.
What do you want me to do?
No, it's fine.
Trying to be reasonable. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
No. Okay.
Thank you
Can
very
I
much
get-
for your time.
Can I get a motion to adjourn this to next month, to August? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Michael did it, second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Oh, fine.
What?
I'm in favor.
Huh?
In favor.
You are?
I,
In favor?
I would do what?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Calendar item Z 22027.
You should buy the woman a new condenser.
Tell us
Hello
your-
again.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with this. I didn't have a problem with it to begin with.
Okay.
But the issue was the sign, so.
All right.
So if they're willing to accept that, I'm okay with it. Anybody else have any issue?
No, I don't have a problem with that.
No.
You're done. Great presentation.
Thank you. The best one I've ever done, so thank you.
Can I get a motion to close?
Goats, you need goats.
Can I get a motion to close calendar item Z 22027? Nelson
I
Gerton?
have, do I have to say that I have a problem with the sprinkler system part of this? It's not, I'm just saying for the record, because
Yeah,
I
you can
just,
say
I don't agree
something
with it.
about it.
So I don't agree with that, so.
Oh, no, we're declining it. We're approving this as requested, which takes out the sprinkler system.
What do you mean?
You want the sprinkler system?
No, I think, yes.
You
So
want it in.
I'm opposed to approving it with.
Without a sprinkler system?
Correct.
All right, so when we prepare the final.
That's just put me down as that, correct.
Well,
I have no problem with the height or any of that. I have a problem with, because it's the same thing with last month. Everybody's just gonna turn around and say that just don't want to do the system. I mean, you can't set that precedent. I have a client right now I'm doing a pool house for. He doesn't want to do it at all, but they're gonna have to. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Okay.
How much pressure you need for a sprinkler system back there?
I don't know. And my client's on well, so his is gonna be a huge problem. But he's gonna have-
That's why I asked.
But he has to do it. So I don't deal with that, but
Right.
it's not.
I'm not in favor of
put
these
those
sprinkler
pressure
systems
tanks in, I
because they
guess.
don't really accomplish
I
anything.
agree, but they're here. They're in the, I mean, either we just
right.
abolish it or we enforce it.
Yeah, but we've been going through that for years
I
over
know.
pools. Over pools, pools shouldn't be close to the property line, pools shouldn't. We've approved pools, and people have taken us to court on all right? Article 78 and won, even if we restricted them. So why would I want to restrict them on a sprinkler system? If he goes to court and he wins, then the sprinkler system rule is thrown out altogether. If we approve it, without,
So then do I advise somebody not to do it then and just
no,
fight?
I'm
I
not
mean,
telling you not, you advise them based on what you're supposed to do as an architect.
Yeah, I know, it's just.
But we have a board, and we have to give people relief if we can.
But
reasonably.
there's, I mean,
So based on the last findings that I did, we kind of tailored it, and I put in there how many times the building department was out there for inspections. And then we put in that they had agreed to get a monitoring system
sure.
directed to either the police department, the fire department, or a monitoring system. And I did call the fire department and spoke to the chief to find out how many fire extinguishers and the type.
wanted or whatever, yeah.
And we put that in the findings. So you're really not setting a precedent because we're going to tailor each individual set of findings. So this one was.
So like, what was
built
this?
against-
Just
Well,
because,
let me
like,
just say this, which hotel was that? It's now an apartment, gonna be an apartment building.
Stofers.
Or the Renaissance.
Stofers, there was a big fire. And there was no sprinkler system requirement prior to that. After Stofers, they required everybody who was building a new house.
Oh, you know, I know.
Or more than
yeah.
50% renovation had to put in a sprinkler system.
Right, but they go off a lot.
It's one thing for a hotel. It's another thing for a private house.
I get it, but I just don't, so if somebody just doesn't wanna do it, they just come to the zoning board and get approved?
So
Yeah.
you're gonna kind of tailor it, so we're gonna, so if that's not
But there's
habitable
no
space-
basement on this, there's no basis on this at all, it's just,
Well, it's not habitable space. He has no water line to it, so we're gonna have to actually tailor it so that we can't, people can't say, well, you're setting a precedent.
The five requirements for zoning, for area variances are what?
800 square feet or more,
No,
or
no,
50%.
I'm talking about the requirements, there's 5 requirements.
For,
An area variance.
for a variance, yeah, so what, like.
And one of them is unreasonable, what is it, unreasonable
Well, the financial
hardship?
Yeah, but that's
It's a
not, that's
financial
hard.
hardship, for no reason.
But that's
for no-
hard, you can't,
In this
it's hard to
case, it's
argue
not
that, it's not.
That's one of the
So-
reasons.
Yeah, but, I don't know.
But we didn't close this one yet, so somebody want a motion to close?
Well, I think we ought to,
Gardner? No?
well, he has an objection, and I think we ought to answer his objection.
No, I mean, I can vote no and everyone else can vote yes, that's fine.
Okay.
There is
mean-
a,
Are we requiring any
Well, we're
fire
not-
extinguishers?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We're gonna
we are.
tailor it to him, yes, we are.
Because this is not like a habitable space, it's like a garage, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah,
someone's
but that's
living
the
there.
size of a new house, that could easily
Oh,
become anything.
you could make an apartment house.
He has no water to it.
I thought you had no
There's
heat, did you say there was no heat, no?
I have a barn about that size that has chemical fire extinguishers
Is that where you keep the pigs?
mounted in the upper walls, which when melted, the fluid leaks out and suppresses whatever, fire there is.
And that's the one that takes the oxygen out of the air.
I'm not sure, it's been there since 1925.
Remove those in case you're in here and something happens.
It's been in 1925, never been tested, to my knowledge. But there must be something along those lines.
So we're going to tailor it. I'll send the draft out to everybody to take a quick look. I'll talk to the fire chief as well and explain to him on this one.
There's some
Yeah.
chemical suppressant.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can't do a chemical suppressant because if there's somebody in there and something happens and, you know, if it goes off and the oxygen is, you know, pulled out, they pass
Well,
out, they're liable.
that's on them. Dead man don't talk.
We're gonna require fire extinguishers
Yeah, right.
and then the chemical fire.
In the findings,
extinguisher
Right.
put that in
in
the
the
findings.
findings, and a certain chemical one for the cars. So like with the other one, there was a certain chemical one for the boiler room.
Yeah.
There was another chemical one for the kitchen, so we're gonna tailor it so that, and she's even required to have one in each attic.
And, because he's intending to store, tractors in there. Farm, whatever, maintenance equipment. That's there with fuel in it and,
Yeah, so
whatever
they'll
else.
have to have certain kind of fire
I
extinguisher
would,
for that.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure we tailor it.
Can I get a motion to close calendar item Z 22-027 and prepare findings with requirements?
I'll make a motion to close.
Can I get a second?
Second,
Billy
All
Jay,
in favor?
okay.
Anybody opposed?
you're opposed to closing it?
No, I'm opposed, I'm in favor of closing it, I'm just opposed to the,
All right. Okay, one left.
Calendar item Z 22-028. Mr. Bobman and Judy Lifton. Please identify yourself.
Sure, I'm Ron Bobman. My wife and I, Judy, live at 9 Timber Trail. We've lived there for approximately 8 years with our 2 children. I am requesting a variance so that we could put up a padel court, which I believe you've been approached 2 occasions previously and have ultimately approved the variance for. Our property is, I would say, extremely private. We have a tennis court that is largely unused, and the plan and the proposal is to place the paddle court in the center of the existing tennis court. It would probably occupy roughly 55% of the tennis court. That's the relative size.
Hard court or soft court?
Hard court.
Hard court.
And I've received letters of support from the 3 closest immediate neighbors who frankly are, 150-plus yards away. I've also attached in the package an acoustic study, which I think you've seen before, that was done abroad and measured a 50-meter distance, which really showed that there was no acoustic differential between existing tennis courts and homes that were 50 meters away, obviously.
One on Justin Road, wasn't it?
Right.
And, there's nothing really in my mind sort of all that unique about this project. I think it's more private. However, the fencing does go above the 10-foot tennis court fencing. So that's one of my 2 variance elements. And the other one is that the perimeter of the padel court's got some glass, and that's also a composite that is not specified in the code. So that's the second part of the variance. I'm happy to discuss, any questions or any element you have.
Yeah, you got anything?
No, I want, no.
This one from Billy, if there's a fence within a fence, and the inner fence is higher than the outer fence, is that still considered, outside of the, zoning code, the code?
Well, the 10-foot fences no longer come to you. We used to get those all the time, remember?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get them anymore.
But if the fence
This
with,
is-
yeah, I understand what it is, it's a fence within a fence.
Yes.
The old fence may stay there.
That is the plan.
So you have a fence within a fence that's taller than the,
Outside fence.
Yeah, it's like
Outside
3
fence.
foot, 3
Yeah,
feet
yeah, I
higher,
understand.
3 and change.
It's glass, right? Plexiglass.
The part that's too high is all fence. The lower part of the perimeter has got some glass,
right, okay.
but glass isn't specified in the building code, as I'm sure you know better than me.
Neighbors, fine, yeah.
Michael,
I don't have a problem with this now.
Stephen,
I'm good.
Yeah,
Ernie?
it's all by itself, and
Yeah, there's no impact on anybody or even to consider, so.
I get a motion to close calendar item Z 22028.
Sharks can swim.
Ronald Bobman and Judy Lifton.
make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll motion.
And a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Prepare findings?
Good.
Rose?
Thanks, good night, good luck.
Hold on, put something there about the lighting.
There's no lighting.
No lighting? Oh, okay.
It shows lighting on the
Right.
thing.
Yeah, I'm surprised he came.
Oh, you should come over.
Oh, he's come all the time.
Is there anything with Vitrani? Is that all done? Vitrani? 22013,
That's New Street?
New Street? Is that done or is that coming back?
That might come back, just hold on.
New Street,
So,
Do they have to refile if it comes back?
no, it's
No?
an open application.
The other ones that you
So,
closed and.
condensers,
Hold on, can I get a motion to close the meeting?
you wanna close it and then we'll discuss it?
yes.
What's to discuss? We already made decisions on all of them. Gertner was adjourned, was
You
approved.
can close the mics.
Lifton was a second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed about closing the meeting?
Never opposed.
No, I'm in favor of it. Yes, I'm in favor of it.
Civic duty, yeah.